Hello.
Good
Hey,
morning. Good
good
morning.
morning.
Not
Welcome.
Teamwork Tuesday or Thursday, is it?
No, it's not. What are we gonna
It's
call it? It's
Wild and Woolly Wednesday.
Wild and Wee Wednesday. Yeah, yeah. Wee Wednesday. Well, welcome back to the show. It's been a hot minute since we've been around. We've been had some traveling going on and some different things happening, and so we're glad to be back here, sitting at the microphone, and glad to be talking with you today. So thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about the elephant in the room. And this is a conversation that we have a lot between the three of us as we talk about the things that the people that the clients that we work with, and the things that we observe, and the things that we are learning about the world around us, and that are, once you know, you kind of start to recognize these things, but until someone points it out, sometimes it's not so obvious. So
Mm,
we're not going to be talking today about how to 10x your results, or how to like hack the system and hack your everything, and how you need to be a super achiever and you're going to become an elite this or that. Today we're going to talk about when to ditch your coach.
mm,
Actually, and kind of a when to ditch your coach, and what to look for if you don't yet have a coach. So it's kind of we're offering two very specific things here.
mhm. Most definitely. And, it's funny, Crystal, because I'm coming up on 20 years in the coaching profession,
Mhm.
and I've seen some changes, and I've seen some evolution, and I've seen some things stay exactly the same. And
Mm,
that's part of
same
what
here.
I really appreciate about our conversations is it's about disrupting that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because coaching has a certain box that it fits in. And what we want
Yeah.
to talk about today, if
Yeah.
you've had a coach, what did you get and how would you know that there's so much more available?
Yeah. 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 I think it's really important for us to start this conversation um, around really around the idea of helping people understand a little bit about coaching in general. So kind of, Carol, can you give us a brief overview kind of the evolution of coaching, so that people understand what it means?
Mhm,
Because we still to this day have clients that we work with where they they don't know what to expect with a coach. And so
yeah,
can you help us give us some context?
sure. There's 2 aspects of this. The coaching profession literally grew out of, sports coaching. That
Mhm.
was the original iterations of it, was all about, we can coach people in an office the way we coach the football team, and that was where the kind of the beginnings of it came. And then personal development work got in there and
Yeah.
said, "No, no, 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 that's there's lots more aspects to it, that
Mhm.
we are talking about human beings, not just who are running drills on a sports field."
Right.
And so in over the years, what has happened is hopefully that there is more and more human development work that is going into being into the coaching
Mhm.
business. However, there are coaches that drill people just the same way a sports coach does.
Mhm.
And us as coaches still get asked, "What sport do you coach?" At least I do. It's like, "Oh, you must be a figure skating coach because
Oh, really?
you're not a football coach," right? So, I mean, it's still out there. However, what in coaching in organizations, now it's such a buzzword. You
Mhm.
either need to be a coach as a leader, it's in your job description, or you're assigned a coach because there's this understanding that having a coach somehow makes you better.
Yeah.
But it's distinguished for people who get coaches. They're either the elite, they're the C-suite folks, or they're people who need a remedial coach. Like, we're gonna coach you, but what we're really doing is preparing to kick you out the door. Both of those things
So
happen.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
my problem with the whole thing, sorry, Carol,
Mhm.
you
Go
go ahead
right
and
ahead.
finish. My problem with the whole thing is that it feels as though we are um, in an emergency room, right?
Mm,
In our
Mhm.
coaching, it feels as though people come into that sacred 50 minutes or hour that they've got, and it feels as though coaching kind of ignores what's going on around them and around us and around the world.
Mhm.
So you come into that coaching session, and so often it just feels like an emergency room triage situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it really does.
it
Yeah.
and then you leave the person leaves, and you're like, oh God, I hope you're going to be okay until the next time, because
Mhm.
I think I think the coaching industry isn't doesn't have a wide enough angle lens on the issues and the challenges that we have today in this world, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
With
Yeah.
AI coming down the barrel, with mental illness all over the place, challenging people. It's almost as if, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, guys, but it's almost as if coaching almost forgets that there isn't something going on outside. That they come in the
Mhm.
door and
Mhm.
and kind of leave their human persona and just focus on a business concept. I think, yeah, I'm babbling on anyway.
Yeah,
You know
well,
what I mean.
I do agree with you that there is that element, maybe that it's an element of an expectation. So, for example, when I start conversations with some people, if this is their first call, like let's say we're coaching them in behalf of an organization, the people that I'm coaching may not understand even what to look
What it
for or
is.
how to think about what to get out of it. And
Mhm.
Colin, I think that you and I talked about, the reality is in coaching, when you're having a true coaching conversation, there is there has to be this space for them. We're holding
Mhm.
space with them for them because we are on the understanding, holding the understanding that they hold the answers inside of them.
Mm.
And there's this
Sure.
interesting crossover right now. We're at this funny intersection in time where people want to believe they have the answers inside of them. There's that element of you that maybe is like still being able to hold on to that. But we're looking for quick fixes all the time.
Oh,
And
yes.
so much of leadership development, so much of leadership coaching is very, and this is not me going on a rant, but it is very white male centric. And
Mm.
so, and it takes into it's because that's how the industry was first built, quite honestly, right? Like
Yeah.
older white male that were already advanced in their career or whatever, and they're turning around and they're giving their wisdom and yada yada. That's how leadership has all kind of been perceived. And when
Mhm.
we are coaching in coaching for leadership from a whole human perspective is not about it's not about anecdotes that are going to get them somewhere and that they can just be like, oh, I get it, I guess it worked for that person, I'm going to try it for me. It's about taking into consideration the whole person, Colin, like what you're talking about, the whole person that enters into that
Yes.
conversation, who they are, right? Like all
And
the
Well,
elements of them.
it's interesting. You just said something that I think is really important, and we might not have talked about it earlier. This idea of the quick fix.
Yeah.
mm.
I don't know about you guys, but when I go onto LinkedIn or even on Instagram or any sort of social media these days, there's so many people telling you the 3 steps, the 5 steps, the 10 steps,
Yeah.
the matrix for this, and
Mhm.
I get overwhelmed. I'm like,
Yeah.
where do you start to
Yeah.
Yes.
to you know? Um, so so
Well,
I
and I
think
think,
I think I think go ahead.
well, part of it is we are in a society where things are moving so quickly through.
Mhm.
And I'm sure we've all had that experience of a client that walks in and they're scheduled for an hour, but they're starting to look at their watch by the 10 minutes after because they've got the
Mhm.
pile of things that is
Mhm.
in the queue waiting for them as soon as the session is done.
Mhm.
So there is that kind of sense, well, give me what I need right now because I've got to go back and do the rest of the work.
Mhm.
So
Hmm.
one of the things that drew us together as coaches is we wanted to take a look at how coaching, as it has been described in the profession over the last 10, 15 years, is not serving people. It
No.
is not looking at them as whole human beings. There is an expectation, as you said, that they check something at the door, they come in, we're going to put a bandage on their gaping wound and send them back
Hmm.
out to go back into the battlefield.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is not serving human beings with the kind of statistics that we know. just
No,
looking at it this
no.
morning. 1 in 4 adults experience mental illness.
1 in 4. That is a shocking, heartbreaking number.
And less than half get help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
it feel that to me is the elephant in the room that nobody's talking about, right?
Mhm.
And if you expand that the from mental health and mental challenges, and you look at even things like fertility, and you look at things like birth rates, and you
Mhm.
start to see a society that's broken, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and that's why I think we need to shake up coaching to become something different than it was.
Mhm.
10 or 20 years ago, like you were talking about, Carol. It it feels as though coaches today need to be equipped with an understanding, at least maybe not of expertise, but to know where to point people in the right direction to say, hey, I feel something around nutrition that you might want to dive into, or
Mhm.
maybe you should listen to this podcast because she discusses goal setting and stress
Yeah.
management and
Mhm.
things like that, or
Yeah.
um, as
'Cause I
opposed, because
wanna
it feels as though they get left alone, right? if
Yes.
Yeah.
if you just follow the ICF standard, I
Mhm.
feel like we're not serving, and it feels as though we leave people almost in the dark
Mhm.
Mhm.
if you stick to the old rules, which are still
So
valid, but it's like, yes, and more, please.
Yes,
yes.
and yeah.
And I wanna be clear because I'm a member of the ICF and I train
Sure.
coaches. And so
Mhm.
I wanna
Yep.
be really
Yep.
clear that we are not advocating that a coach become a that a person who calls himself a coach all of a sudden also becomes a nutritional expert or,
Yeah.
this or a that,
Yeah.
unless they have that training and
Mhm.
expertise.
Sure.
However, it is important to recognize as we are looking at who we are coaching, what else do they need? Where can we
Mhm.
refer? What resources do we know? And how are we as coaches developing ourselves to
Yes. Yeah.
address what's going on in the current world?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give you a
It's almost like,
scenario about
no, go ahead.
conversations about a coaching conversation that will often happen. Colin and I have talked about this with our client, that we will often have these kind of conversations with clients where you at the end of a conversation, so in a coaching call, in the context of how we coach, that we're always under the understanding and the agreement with our client that you're whole. This is we're not here to fix you. But we are informed about the reality that you may be showing up presenting here as a woman in her late 30s, but you also might be a mom or a daughter or a niece or a partner, or you might be an employer, you might be, like a community member. You're all these things and more. So you're whole. And over the course of that conversation, as we work with them to direct what they want to focus on, a lot of times at the end of it, there will be the question. It's like, can you help me with any other resources or anything to help me
Mm.
move on past this? And so I want to bring us back to that when to ditch your coach thing. And this is not a judgment call. So I don't want anyone to hear this as a judgment call. But if you are with someone, if you're when you're looking for a coach, you also do want to look for people who, they don't need to be experts, like what you said, Carol. They're not claiming to be experts, but there
Mhm.
is an element of well-rounded. Inf- they're well informed about the
Yes.
context that we're living, working, and working to thrive in the world today
Mm.
we're living in. That they're not sitting in an ivory tower, right? They're
Yeah.
not far removed from everything. They actually are. They understand basically like the human condition.
Mhm. Mhm. So let me pose this question. I mean, we have both had coaches and are coaches.
Mhm.
If you've had a really, really good coaching session with your coach, what's your experience at the end of it?
Go ahead, Crystal.
Okay, well, I can speak to that because I've had a lot of excellent coaching. Number one, I always feel much more clear. I feel like I've cleared the space around myself,
Mhm.
and I've changed my perspective. I will often feel inspired and energized at the end of it.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and through the course of that conversation, I often have gleaned almost like, what would you call it? Like breadcrumbs to continue on for myself. So I
Right.
feel, I guess what I would say is I feel empowered and I have a sense of agency over my life and over the situations that I'm in.
Mm. What about you, Colin?
I think mine would be more around yes and relief, because
Mhm.
just sort
Mm.
of
Mm,
relief of mm, a narrative or a story that I might have been telling
yeah,
myself that in the course of that conversation you discover is just that it's a story,
it's a
and
story.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
yes.
not it's not a jail sentence, right? It's so
Mhm.
I've always one good for me. Good coaching is that release from the prison of your mind in that
Oh,
moment.
Mhm.
Um,
okay. So
but
the opposite of that. So then when to ditch your coach is when you don't walk away with those kind of sense of relief and sense of empowerment, or when your coach is somehow not seeing you as all of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Or or if you feel like you've been told what you should do rather
Mhm.
than given rather than someone hold the space for you to kind of like pull back the curtain yourself in the conversation.
Yes.
Um,
Right.
because
Okay.
being
it
told what
also
to do. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Let me finish this thought and then I will hand it over to you.
Yeah,
Being
yeah.
told what to do is not coaching. And we're always very clear at the end of the conversation. So if someone asks for like they're giving you permission to do that, but it is one of the first things you learn in coach training is it's going to feel like you're sitting on your hands because you want to tell people what to do. We're conditioned to want to give advice.
Mhm.
So if you're a coach, if you find that in a coaching conversation you're being told what to do or how you should think, that is not that is like that's just not going to serve you because it's negating and it's negating the truth that you are whole and complete
Which is the
no
core
matter what.
principle.
Yeah. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Colin, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I would just add, I also don't want a coach that is kind of artificially content, like I want reality,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
some I haven't had many, but when you're with somebody and it's like, come on, you know, this situation sucks. Can you have
Yes.
some empathy? I
Yeah.
guess
Oh, yeah.
is or
Yeah.
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, we call it
of
toxic positivity for a
yes.
reason, right?
Yeah,
That's
Like,
those are the
exactly.
words I was looking for. Toxic,
mm,
exactly.
Yeah.
mm,
That sort of,
Yeah.
oh, everything's going to be
everything's fine,
super. Oh yeah, okay. I want
You
survival tools, not you know,
yeah, blue
you know,
sky.
blue
Mhm,
skies. Exactly,
mm,
exactly.
yeah.
From survival
So,
to thriving, thrive
Yeah.
to survive,
in
survive to thrive.
Yeah.
right, exactly, because I think the experience that I hear in most people is they're just barely hanging on, right? We've
Hmm.
got skin in your teeth. We're gonna make it through to Friday. We're gonna do this. And that's such a tragedy because life can be
Yes.
so much richer than
Yeah.
that. And I consider my role as a coach to be asking the questions that help people experience more of their life, that there is
Yeah.
more
Mhm.
of them in everything that they are
Yes.
doing, whether it's their role as a leader or whether it's their role as a partner or whether it's as a mom or a daughter or son, that they have a sense of all of who they are that can contribute to that. So what do people do if they don't have the right coach? Where do you go? I mean, I think it's a question to take back. Coaches are brought into organizations. Sometimes they're a good fit, sometimes they're not. But
Mhm.
I think it's an honest conversation to have with your HR department or with your coach, like, this is what I need, and get clear on how you as the client want to be served. 'Cause I think that's an aspect that we bring is we want to know, how can I be of service to you?
Yeah. And I also think that there is an element, and we don't talk about this enough. There is an element that coaching is measurable. It can be
Mhm.
measured. The effects of it can be measured. It's not like a hard line of it's not like dollars and cents, which is how we often measure business things, but
Mhm.
it still can be measured. We do that with our clients.
Mhm.
When we start an engagement with a client, we talk about all the things that can be measured, and we give reports back based
Yeah.
on anonymous, obviously, observations,
Mhm.
um, because those are all part of it's such a big, much bigger conversation, because we're living in a world that if it does not evolve and evolve is maybe not the right word, but if we do not make the transition into a just and sustainable way of doing business and being in the world and of work, then we're not everything is just going to continue to be depleted, right? Because it becomes like everything is built on scarcity. And so the things that coaching helps move on and helps make measurable are the elements that actually are regenerative in organizations and in lives,
Mm.
in longevity, in health, in mental health and emotional health.
Yes.
Those are the things that matter, that have traditionally not been talked about in business coaching at all.
Mm. Very good
Yep.
point. Yeah.
The elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room. Yeah,
Mhm.
let's talk about it. And
Yeah,
and let's talk about it with our clients. As coaches, let's talk about it with our clients. As clients, as people who are looking for coaches, ask these kind of questions. How
yeah,
do you coach? What
mhm,
do you do? How do you
yeah,
measure your results?
yeah, yeah,
And, and ask questions, get
yeah,
referrals.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So, in light of that, I want to remind all of our listeners, thank you for being here. And wherever you are as you're listening to this right now, next week we have yet another free workshop. We do a free workshop at the end of every month, and they are for anybody at any stage. It doesn't matter. You may be a business of one. You may be whatever it is. You are a leader if you determine that you're a leader, and so we invite you to learn some skills and some personal development growth through the power of learning how coaching and coaching conversations and coaching as a leader can help move the dial for you. And so you can join us next week. You can find out more information at wholehumancoaching.com. And if you haven't taken our Wheel of Life assessment, we strongly encourage you to take that. It can give you a lot of great insight so that you know the things that you really do want to talk about when you enter into those conversations with your coach.
Perfect. Thank
Thanks for joining
Thanks,
us. Thank you,
everybody.
Carol and Colin. It's always such a pleasure and a privilege to be able to have these conversations. Thanks for
It
showing up.
is.
Thank
All right.
you. Have a great,
Thank you.
great morning, great afternoon. Bye.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.